City of the swang, pop it, drunk and bang. City of the swang, pop it, drunk and bang.
Welcome to the Daily Dosage. I'm Pat Beach.
I'm John Lawrence.
It's week 6 of the NFL season. We're about to give you our picks for this week. John, how'd you do last week?
Not so hot. I was 8-6. It's not good. I definitely want to be above that mark this week.
Yeah, I kind of struggled also with another 8-6 mark. I did have one good pick with the Seahawks, but besides that, I'd say a pretty mediocre effort. So anyways, let's get started on this week. Houston and Cincinnati. Who do you think's going to win?
I'm all about Ocho Cinco in this one. He's playing at home. He got licked by Ray Lewis last week, but he got back up. Cincinnati drove down the field to win the game. I like the Bengals.
I gotta like the Bengals also. It was tough for me to pick against them last week. I'm kind of disappointed that I did because, that would at least up my win total a little bit. But, I gotta pick them here. What about Detroit and Green Bay? Does Detroit have a shot in this one?
They do have a shot. They are a little better football team this year, and Green Bay's kind of struggled. So I think they have a shot, but Green Bay's coming off a bye week. I think they'll be well game planned for this one, and they really need to get things going, so I'm taking the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers also. I just don't see the Lions getting a win here. What about Baltimore and Minnesota? That's going to be a good game.
The Ravens have dropped 2 in a row, and they're entering the home of the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. Baltimore wants to get back to the run, but it might be hard against the stout Vikings defensive line. Ray Lewis's D isn't as feared as they once were, and I think Favre's good completion percentage gets Minnesota the victory.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota also. What about St. Louis and Jacksonville? Two teams that haven't looked so sharp this year.
No, Jacksonville really took a beating in Seattle last week. But, they're back home now, back down there in Florida. And the Rams, they're really bad. Jacksonville's a hit or miss team, but the Rams are just awful. So I got to go with Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jacksonville also. Cleveland, the Browns, they got a win last week, a surprising 6-3 win in Buffalo. Are they going to try to carry some of that momentum into this game this week with the Steelers?
Well, they will try and carry some of that momentum. They got rid of Braylon Edwards, so he was kind of a distraction for them. But they're going into Pittsburgh, and things have not been good there recently. I think the Steelers, they need to get this victory.
Yeah, I agree. The Steelers are a tough team. They're going to play well at home. It's just tough not to pick them in that situation. What about probably the most hyped up game of the week? The New York Giants versus the New Orleans Saints. Who are you going to pick?
This is the best Saints D that we've seen in a long time, but Eli Manning is playing out of his mind. We've seen the Saints slowed since the beginning of the season, and the Giants should be able to keep them on their heels. In what could be a surprisingly low-scoring game, I like the Giants using their experience to get the win.
I'm just not going to agree with you there, man. I think New Orleans is going to make enough big plays to get this win. What about Carolina and Tampa Bay?
Yeah, two bad teams here, but Carolina's a bad team that can play well, where I think Tampa is just always a bad team. The Bucs need to get a win this season. This is going to be one of their opportunities, but Carolina rolling off a little bit of momentum, and I think they're going to go on the road and get a victory here.
I'm going to have to go with Tampa Bay. They're the home team. Both of these teams really are not very good. Honestly, who cares about this game? But I'm just going to have to pick Tampa just because I think Jake Delhomme is that terrible. What about Kansas City, though? They're playing Washington this week. They almost upset Dallas last week. Do they have a chance in this game?
They almost got a win at home last week. They're playing a worse NFC East team, but they're going into a tough place to play up there in D.C. So I think the Redskins, Jim Zorn's coaching for his career right now. Some of the players got to have his back, right? I think the Redskins get a victory.
Yeah, I do too. I think this is maybe a good turning point in the Redskins season. It's kind of now or never for this team, right? What about Arizona and Seattle? Two teams that definitely need to make a big statement in a division game.
The Seahawks are a tale of two teams, and when Matt Hasselbeck is playing, they look like the NFC West champs. Arizona will put major pressure on the Hawks' defensive backs, but Seahawks Stadium is a difficult place to play, giving Seattle the edge in a shootout.
The Seahawks played so well last week, it's just hard not to pick them again, especially if Matt Hasselbeck actually plays in the game. Is Tennessee going to get a win this season? They're playing New England this week. Could they really go 0-6?
I do not want to see the Titans get a win until Vince Young is the starting quarterback. They need to get him in the game. Kerry Collins is done for. Their playoff hopes are shot. The future is Vince Young, or get rid of him, trade him.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Tennessee needs to make some moves. Chris Johnson is really the only bright spot on that team right now. I got to pick New England. What about Philadelphia? The Eagles are playing the Raiders. Who's going to win here?
Pretty easy victory, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Oakland has just been going downhill, and I don't see any way they can stop this. Philadelphia got back on track last week with McNabb and all that, so I think an easy victory for the Eagles.
Yeah, I just have to agree with you. The Oakland Raiders have such a culture of losing over there that just a couple losses in a row just pretty much put their season in the dumpster. What about the Bears? They're playing Atlanta this week. They've looked, good.
Atlanta has the air and ground attack working overtime, and there are no signs of slowing. You can be sure the Bears were watching last week's beatdown on their bye, and they don't want it to happen to them. Ultimately, Chicago does not have the firepower to get down in the ATL.
I'm going with the surprise pick here. I'm going to actually take the Bears. I think they got a lot of good momentum going. What about Buffalo and the Jets? Buffalo's just really not looking good at all.
No, they're not. They took that hard loss, only scored 3 points last week. The Jets need to get things going here because they want to be a playoff team in the AFC. I think they are a playoff team, and they'll get this victory at home.
Yeah, it's pretty tough not to pick the Jets here. They're at home, and Buffalo's just not very good for some reason. Denver and San Diego, a big division rivalry. Who are you picking in this game?
Coming off a huge win against New England, the Broncos are out to prove they are the kings of the AFC West. The Chargers' LaDainian Tomlinson will be healthy, and San Diego's offense has been tough to stop. Eventually, the Broncos will drop one, and I think it will be to the division rival this week.
I don't know, man. Even though Denver's going into San Diego, I think I'm going to pick Denver in this game. You have any closing comments?
This weekend, 4 teams going unbeaten. There's a chance that only one will come out.
City of the swing, pop it, drunk and bang. City of the swing, pop it, drunk and bang. City, swing, pop it.